Okay. Hello, everyone. Today I would like to tell you about the role of a QA engineer. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Nasiba. I'm a QA engineer at DSR Corporation. I've been working there for 1.5 years already. So today I would like to talk a bit about the role and responsibilities of a QA engineer, as well as the importance of this profession. But before we dive deep into that, I would like to tell you something about the project and software development process so that you have a clear understanding. And in the end, we will know what is QA's role in it. And pretty much that's why we're here. So first, a very basic question: what's a project? A formal definition would be that a project is a temporary effort to create a unique product. And it has 4 of these points. Well, first of all, of course, it's a goal. What are we trying to achieve with this project? What do we want from it? And then there is a team that will be working on it. Of course, there should be a plan on how it will be done and a deadline by which a product should be done, which, well, basically will be the result of this project. And now let me walk you through all of these points little by little. And let's take some real examples. Well, that's how it usually works in our company, but I'm pretty sure that it's the same in all other companies. First of all, it all starts with the customer coming to the company and defining what do they want, what kind of product. It could be a mobile app, a website, anything. And here we're defining the goal of the project. Let's say a customer wants a mobile app to order food from a restaurant. So, okay, goal is defined. Now we need a team who will be implementing this project, who will be working on it. And an IT project usually consists of a project manager, business analysts, designers, developers, and of course, QA engineers. So about their roles and responsibilities, we will talk a bit later. Now, let's move on. There is a plan, of course. It answers the question, how can it be done? For example, with our mobile app for delivery, we first design the interface, implement the main page, then the order button, then we connect the payment system. All of that is described in the plan, and of course, it should be done by some date, which is going to be our deadline, like 6 months, let's say. And finally, what does the customer get in the end? A ready product like the mobile app that they can download on App Store or Google Play. So that's pretty much what a project is. Now, let's talk a bit more in detail of what a software development process is. And all of these steps and the roles that are taking part in this process. So, first of all, there is planning. Here, the very first role that we are encountering is a product manager. This person defines what to build. They talk to users and the stakeholders and set the project's goals and features. And often, product manager is from the customer side, so they know what the company wants. They represent their interests. And in addition, there is a project manager. They, in their turn, decide the when and the how. They run the meetings, they manage the project process itself. So on this stage, the team has to answer the question, what problem are we solving? Who are we building it for? And what is the goal? So here it includes a lot of talking with the customers, the stakeholders, to really understand what are we trying to achieve. And after that is done, we can move on to our next stage, requirements. Here we have business analysts who work closely with the product manager and the stakeholders, and they analyze the business problems, goals, rules, and define what the team needs to implement. All of that is going to be documented in the requirements. And also we have a role of a system analyst here. This person takes the requirements from the business analyst and suggests the technical way to implement them. And of course, the final requirements have to be approved by the customer. After that, we can move on to design. Here, we do the UI, UX design. Designers, they create the mock-ups and prototypes. At this stage, we decide what the product will look like. And moreover, there is also a technical design that is done by developers and architects, and they choose the technology, design the database structure, and this is the plan that the developers will follow. So now that we have everything set, we can move on to actual implementation, where developers do all the features and the functionality described in the requirements. So in the end, we should have all of them up and running. So next comes the testing. Here we find everything that doesn't work as expected before the users do. So they check this developed solution for errors, for what can go wrong, and does it meet all the requirements and the expectations of the customer and the users. And a lot of things can go wrong. For example, the users try to use the system not in the right way, or something goes wrong in the sense of internet connection gets lost, what is the behavior, or what if some connection between the system components gets broken. Another case, what if the hackers trying to break into the system. All of that is handled by QA managers. They create tickets and send them to the developers. So for that, we have actually some special collaboration tools like Jira, for example, if some of you might know. But the main thing is that the developers receive those tickets and they fix them, all of the issues, and release the new version of the product. After that, we confirm as QAs that everything is working now and no new issues arise. But if they do, we go back to the cycle of sending tickets and returning them. So the cycle will go on and on until we have a stable version with everything working. And only after we achieve this stability and high quality of the product, we can move on to the deployment. Here is where this development code actually goes into the live production server, where real users can access it. It could be App Store or Google Play for some mobile apps, or it could go to a public website. And last but not least, there is maintenance. Here, it includes the monitoring of the system for issues, fixing new issues, and adding some new features based on the feedback. And this cycle often leads right back to the very first stage of planning of a new version. Okay, I think that at this point it's pretty clear what is the project and how it's done, all of the stages. And now we can move on to our main topic of the discussion: who is a QA engineer? So, yeah, you have a question? No? Okay, let's talk about who QA engineer is. Well, it's a specialist who is responsible for software quality. Well, it's actually said in the profession name, as QA stands for quality assurance. Their job is basically to try to break things and find problems. We call them bugs. By the way, does any of you know why do we call issues in software bugs? Like, no? Good. Now I will explain it. The term actually comes from the very early days of computing. In 1947, engineers working on one of the very first computers found that the machine was malfunctioning for some reason. And after some the investigation, they discovered the cause. A real moth had gotten stuck inside a relay. So that was the problem, that's why it was malfunctioning, and they logged it in their notebook as the first actual case of a bug being found. So since then, any glitch, error, or defect in software is called simply bug. And going back to our topic of a QA, usually we work on requirements and the functionality, so that includes close communication with developers and BAs. So now let's move on to the most typical activities of a QA engineer. First of all, I have to say that all of the tasks are assigned to a QA team members by a QA manager, and it's done according to the plan and priorities. So if we come back to the software development process, you might assume from here that the QA engineers start working from the testing phase. That sounds logical. But if you think so, you're wrong. Because actually, work of the QA engineers starts very early in the process, right here on the requirements stage. Once the requirements are ready, they are passed to a QA to validate them. That is done to achieve good results in the sense that we find some small issues, some misunderstandings very early so that they don't pass on to implementation and cause real bugs. So then, on the design stage, we can also take a look at the mock-ups and communicate with the designers if we see that something is inconsistent, for example, or there is a typo somewhere. And then, during the implementation stage, when nothing is ready yet, what are we going to do? There's nothing to test. Well, we take this time to write the test cases that will actually define all the steps that we have to go through to test the software the proper way, not to miss anything, because often the projects that we are working on are huge and the requirements can be detailed, not so detailed, but in any way you cannot keep all of this in your mind. You have to have some steps, some plan, how are you going to approach all of this. And for that reason, we're doing the test cases. So once the implementation is done, we are all set. We can now execute them and find all the issues. By the way, on this stage, we also can do some test data preparation. For example, we're creating some specific account with a long name, just to see how it's going to be displayed. And all of that is done in the scope of test data and test environment preparation. So as the testing goes, QAs may find some issues, not may, they most probably will. And then we create bug reports as a result, and then report the test results to have some understanding how bad the situation we are in, or maybe how good. And after bugs are fixed, QA check everything one more time to make sure that it's done and no new issues arise. So, and that's pretty much it. Next topic that I would like to discuss is this role in high demand? Because nowadays the world is growing very fast, and every single company actually needs QAs. Because each app and website needs to be checked before it gets to you. There are quite some reasons why is that so. First of all, every company nowadays needs some app or website to represent them, to be up to date and reach as much users as they can. So who tests all of them? Of course, QAs do. And the number of things that needs to be tested grows day by day. And next, well, nowadays we have all become some quite picky users. If an app is slow or confusing, we won't like to work with it. We would rather choose one that has similar features but works better, faster. And that's why companies invest in QA to keep their users happy and loyal. Next, software is getting more complex. It's not just simple websites anymore. It's not enough to click both of the buttons that you have and be done with it. Right now we have a lot of advanced technologies like smart devices, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Complexity means that you can't just quickly check that it works. You really need some experts in testing. Next, there is also this thing that companies have learned, that finding a bug report at the start of a project is cheaper than finding it after the product is released. So now we're involved from the very beginning, from planning, designing, and developing. So it means that more companies need more QAs involved in more projects. And of course, security is very important because hackers nowadays are everywhere. And QA tests for basic security things like forms that don't protect your password. And as cyber threats grow, the demands for tester with a security mindset grows as well. So why is this job so important? First of all, let's just play a quick game. What's the difference between these two problems? The first one, we have a typo somewhere in the menu that you rarely use. And the second one, we have a confirm payment button that charges your credit card twice. So both of them are bugs, but what is the difference?
The second one has more
Consequences. Yeah, that's right. I will repeat the answer. Yeah, definitely the second one is way more critical. It has some consequences. So in the first case, you can just maybe not even get to the menu. And in the second, you will be very much frustrated if you will have your money lost. So going back to the topic, a bug found early by QA during development is cheap and easy to fix. That's part of the process. But a bug found by a user after the release is incredibly expensive. Developers need to do some emergency fix, and also some additional testing is required because there is always a risk that somewhere else something gets broken, and especially when the fix is urgent. So this could result in losing customers' trust and damaging the company's reputation. Because going back to that example, if you have your credit card charged twice, you will not use that app at all. Never ever, even if the developers will say, yeah, it's all fixed, it's working now, you will not risk it again. So that's why it's very important to do a thorough testing before any product goes into production. And the main goal of a QA is to find bugs early, to save the company huge amounts of money, time, and stress. Well, what problems do QAs find, you might ask? And the most basic one, the can come up to anyone's mind is just to check that some buttons work, but it's not just that. Of course, we first of all look at does it work as expected, and its functional bugs. For example, the forgot password button doesn't send me an email. But not only that, we look actually at everything. For example, is it easy to use? This is called usability testing. So, for example, you have to click through 5 different menus just to get to the logout button. That's going to be very annoying. So we have to avoid that. And another thing, does it work for everyone? This is called compatibility. I think often people face the OS update on their phones. And imagine you have your favorite app, you update your operating system, and then it just crashes. You cannot open it anymore. So that means that someone didn't do a proper compatibility testing. Well, next, is it safe? This is security, of course. A typical problem is that the app shows me my password as a text after I type it. It doesn't do this black dots for the security. And last but not least, can it handle pressure? This is a performance testing. For example, the shopping website becomes super slow and crashes on Black Friday when thousands of people are trying to buy things. Or when you're trying to buy some concert tickets. I think everybody has faced such type of issues at least once in their lives. And this is a performance issue. And by finding all of these issues, the QA ensures that the final product is easy to use, safe, and works for everyone. Now, if we're going a bit more specific, let's talk about some interesting and critical bugs. Well, first one is that the system incorrectly rejects a valid birth date of April 1st, 1981 with the error, this date does not exist. So, what a user does. Someone with this birthday enters April 1st, 1981 when they're registering for a website, for example. They just don't mention any specific time because, well, you don't do that unless it's an astrology website or something. So you just click submit, not expecting anything, and suddenly you get this form validation failed with the date does not exist. And of course, you're going to be so confused. What do you mean? I was born on this date. How can it not exist? Well, do you have any idea why could that be? That's actually a good guess, but here it was a bit more tricky. What actually happened here, that on the night of April 1st, 1981, the clocks were moved forward for daylight saving time, skipping the hour from 000 to 00:59. So what does it mean? Here, in this system, any date is parsed as 000 when no specific time is defined. So since that specific timestamp did not exist in that time zone on that date, it was actually correctly parsed as invalid date time, causing this validation to fail. And as an impact, we have some users with birthdays falling on dates affected by daylight saving time transitions, like this one, for example. They're unable to sign in. And of course, this leads to poor user experience and loss of potential customers. Next, we have a second bug of a banking app that incorrectly awards cash, bonus cash, for a canceled transaction. So what is going on here? Let's say you initiate a transfer from your credit card to your account, and then you immediately cancel the transaction. So as a result, the system does not deduct the money from your card, which is good, and does not award it to the account either. However, the app displays that the transaction is successful and deposits an equal amount as bonus or cashback. What does it mean? It means that theoretically you could infinitely do that, transfer money, cancel, and generate unlimited bonus money. And imagine the financial loss of a company that will have this problem. So that was pretty critical too. And the third bug, we have this one related to a game. So there, a game patch causes a damaging spell effect to become highly contagious and infinite. Here, there was just a regular player character that got infected with this corrupted blood effect. So this player, infected one, enters a major in-game city. And what happens? This effect instantly spreads to nearly every player in the vicinity, killing their characters completely and creating a chain reaction that turns entire cities into instant graveyards. So that was a massive game-wide disruption requiring server rollbacks. Actually, it became a famous case study in unintended emergent behavior and even epidemiology. Okay, now we can talk a bit about the potential for growth because, of course, anyone wants to evolve and become better at what they're doing. So what a QA role can give you in this sense? Well, first of all, there are some ways. You can grow into a QA lead or manager because QAs, throughout their careers, they learn about databases, advanced testing tools usage, management processes. All of this knowledge together can let you grow into a QA lead or manager. Then there is QA automation engineer. You can learn how to write code and automatically test things. And of course, you can dive deep into some specialization like video games, mobile apps, financial software, or security. Well, QA is a creative and critical thinking career because, well, it's not just what you're doing is simply following some tests that are written for you and don't turn on your mind. No, of course, we have to think about what we're doing and what can go wrong because we are the ones who are just scribing the test cases, and we have to include every single thing that might go wrong in some places that you might not even expect. So of course it requires some creativeness and critical thinking. And actually it's a good way to get into the tech industry with a lot of opportunities to learn and grow. Well, if you're not convinced yet, let's talk about why is it worth starting a QA career. What is so attractive about this profession? First of all, we have a relatively low barrier to entry. In order to enter this profession, a technical background and some non-technical qualities like curiosity, perseverance, attentiveness, of course, communication skills, and structured and analytical thinking is required. Then the process will not be written out for you. It requires creative work. In many projects, there are actually no documentation in its traditional form, so it's necessary to explore the system yourself. And of course, the importance of what you do. As a tester, you protect the end user and ensure that they receive a high-quality product. Often QA finds problems in places that no one thought about, or they thought that everything works fine anyways. So a fresh look always helps to find such omissions. Then, job security. even though I mentioned that one of the growth paths is to go into automated testing, it's actually really hard to automate the responsibilities of a QA engineer completely. Sometimes it's even impossible, or even if it's possible, it can be very, very costly. So it's easier to just do it manually. And sometimes the machine just cannot grasp the things that a human eye can. And then we have competitive salaries. Companies offer competitive pay and good benefits to attract and keep QAs because the demand is high and the role is important. Also, we have some remote work opportunities. Testing can very often be done from anywhere with a good internet connection and the device that you need. Often it's just your laptop. So next, you are constantly learning. There is always a lot to learn. Documentation validation, automation, or security testing. Each project actually is a new area unknown to you. And next, you are part of a team. As I already mentioned before, QAs have to communicate very closely with the whole team, discuss requirements with BAs, implementation with developers, some design comments with the designers, and report to a project manager. Of course, discuss some problems with fellow QA engineers. It is very important to improve your communication skills, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And last but not least, the profession of a QA engineer provides many ways to develop. You can go into a narrow specialization or upgrade your hard skills, as I mentioned in the previous slides. Now, I hope that by this point, you already want to become a QA engineer. And the next question that you might have is, well, where do I start? And here we have a perfect opportunity for you, because our course can help you with the start of your career. Its structure mirrors the exact workflow of a QA engineer on a real project. And you can trust me on this one, because I actually passed it and got the job in the end. And you won't be just told what to do. You'll do it yourself. You will analyze the requirements for a live application, write test design, perform manual testing on a web app, and write detailed bug reports using specific tools. So by the end of the course, you will have a portfolio of practical work and the confidence to start working as a QA engineer. And well, we believe that the best way to find new people is to train them ourselves. That's why we will invite best students from the course for a job interview at our company. Unfortunately, we cannot 100% sure promise you the hiring right away due to change in demand on employee, but once you're interviewed successfully, we save you as a candidate and we can give you an offer once the position opens. So this is your chance to turn your education into a career opportunity. And by the way, 3 of the students from our university are already successful QA engineers here at DSR company. And I'm one of them, so we started right where you are now. And here you can find all of the contacts of our DSR Tashkent Telegram channel, the website, and the LinkedIn, and actually the link to the course will be posted right here. So, do you have any questions? It's actually not that long compared to some other courses. The duration is only 2 months, I think, right? Yeah. So, any other questions? Well, it really depends on your personal learning style, but I would advise you to devote quite some time on it, like 4 hours a day, like 20 hours a week, let's say. You can spread it out evenly or when you have the time, but it will be the most effective way to learn if you devote the time. and it, of course, will pay off as you will have the actual skills to start your career, maybe even at our company. Well, I will wait some time for your other questions, but if you don't have any, I actually have some questions for you. So, could you please remind me on which stage QAs join the team and start working on the software? What?
Requirement.
Yeah, that's right. You can have this prize.
Thank you.
Okay, that was right, but now why should we start so early? Why just not jump into the testing right away? Yeah, okay, get another prize. Let's go back to the bug with the date, if you remember, April 1st, 1981. What was the reason for that bug to occur? If you're referring to the daylight time zone switch, you're right. So, have a prize. Does any of you remember why do we call software issues bugs? Yeah, that's totally right. You also get a prize. And the last question that I have, do you remember what does usability testing look for? What does it check?
Is it easy to use for the customer?
Can you give me some example? Maybe the one that I mentioned, or maybe some that you can come up with your own. Nice. Thank you. You were so active. You get a big prize. Okay. Maybe you have some other questions. And if no, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and maybe see you soon as my colleague. Maybe. Thank you.